human trafficking, marginalized rights, and the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on labor and environmental law. He is a member of esteemed professional bodies like the Indian Social Science Academy and the Indian Law Institute, New Delhi. His work reflects a deep commitment to legal scholarship and social justice. We're all honored to have you in this session, sir. Now, let us move on to our distinguished speakers. Our first speaker is Professor Nagratna, Associate Professor at National Law School of India University. She has specialized in criminal, cyber, and commercial law. Her diverse interests spans jurisprudence, IPR, medical law, and women and law. With a strong academic record, including top ranks and gold medals from Bangalore University, she holds a UGC, JRF, and NET qualifications. She has enriched legal scholarship through numerous publications and presentations at national and international levels. Her expertise extends to curriculum development and advisory roles in medical and IT law. She is a lifetime member of professional bodies like the South Asian Society of Criminology and Victimology. Her expertise and contributions to legal scholarship are highly regarded with this academic community. As an associate professor, she plays a vital role in shaping this curriculum, conducting research and mentoring students in NLSIU. Her work contributes significantly to the advancement of legal knowledge and the development of future legal professionals. We call you, ma'am, to enlighten us on the topic of jurisdiction-related challenges affecting effective regulation of gender-based crimes in cyberspace. We also have Sanjay Sahay, ex-IPS and founder of TechCon Pro. He is a leading cybersecurity expert and technological consultant with extensive experience in policing and IT. In his absence, yeah. Yes. Okay. We also welcome Professor Sapna S., Dean of Law of Christ University, who has extensive experience in legal education and gender studies. She provides statistic counsel on gender issues and action plans. Previously, Dean of Presidency University and BILS, she has been a full-time professor at Christ University since 2019. Her expertise extends to serving as an external expert on internal complaint committees at NIPCCID and Presidential University. Her publications focus on gender discrimination, sexual harassment, and women's rights in the workplace, particularly within the ITES sector. Her work reflects a commitment to gender equality and legal reforms. We look forward to your perspective on examining technology-facilitated gender violence in modern workplaces, ma'am. We also have Ms. Amrita Mukherjee who is the founder of She Evolution, a platform dedicated to coaching and mentoring women across various industries. Leveraging her extensive corporate experience, particularly within the global banking and her expertise in emotional intelligence, she focuses on empowering women to achieve her professional and personal growth. Beyond her work with She Evolution, Amrita Mukherjee is also an accomplished author. Her literary work, including her novel Exit Interview, has garnered positive reviews. She's also a journalist, having spent many years working with well-known publications. Her blended experience of corporate work and writing lends her a unique perspective. Amrita Mukherjee, ma'am, brings nearly 2 decades of expertise in IT strategy, data engineering, and analyticals, driving organizational growth through transformative technological solutions. Their leadership, fostering innovation and excellence within diverse engineering teams, ensuring data governance and compliance with delivering impactful results within timelines. We welcome ma'am to share your insights on bridging dreams with technology, empowering women through digital connectivity. Now, let us commence the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the post-lunch session, plenary 4. As the title has already been, topic has already been discussed, Cyber Law and Gender Justice, Preparedness of Criminal Justice System. We were actually 1, 2, 3, 4 speakers. In the absence of one speaker, Mr. Sanjay Sahai, one more. So actually the time allotted was 20 minutes, keeping the original schedule. But we are past the original schedule of 2:15, it's 2:35, 2:40. Considering all these things and also a brief time for question and answer session, I think 15 minutes would be justified. I know you can speak more than that, but 15 minutes would be justified initially. Later on, we can have some clarification. I'm very singularly proud that we have two of our own alumni who have come as experts here, Professor Nagratna and Professor Sapna, and Madam Amrita Mukherjee is there. It's like homecoming for these two. So I'm just recollecting my classroom lecture days. Nice and happy to share the dais. Life comes a full circle. So I'm happy that Madam Sudeshna Mukherjee had made it possible that this homecoming happens, and it should happen quite often. When we invite them, they're generally seen very busy. I don't know, the magic of Professor Sudeshna Mukherjee worked, that I did not even make a single call to them. They are here. Anyway, happy to have you in this very legendary hall, Professor Ubiquitino Hall. So first, Professor Nagratna, she'll be speaking on jurisdiction-related challenges affecting effective regulation of gender-based crimes in cyberspace. You have 15 minutes at your disposal.
Thank you, sir. Very good afternoon, respected teachers. Teacher Professor Sudesh, Professor Dashrath, dear friend Sudeshna ma'am, Amrita ma'am, Sapna ma'am, and all other colleagues, delegates, dear students, and my friends from ULC. It's definitely a pleasure and privilege to be here. As sir rightfully said, meaningfully said, it's coming back home. So the place where I learned and continue to learn because of inspiring personalities like Professor Kutino and then Sudesh, Dashrath and all. Having such wonderful teachers itself is a blessing in life. So thank you so much for having me here. So I'll be very quick in just giving my inputs on an extremely important issue. So when it comes to regulation of cyber crimes, especially against women, as it is, cybercrime regulation is a very challenging task. Extremely important yet a challenging task, and especially when it comes to crimes victimizing women and children, we have more and more additional challenges. So I'll just try to focus on some of those issues. So we all see that there's been an alarming increase in the number of cyber crimes getting committed in general as well as specifically against women. In fact, with the new versions of technology, new forms of crimes are, getting committed. So what you didn't hear a few years back is becoming a reality today. For example, deep fakes, AI-based crimes, right? And then this has led to increased incidences of cyber trawling, etc. Now, why is this a concern? Most of the international academicians who write in the field of criminology, victimology, gender studies, recognize some crimes as gender-based crimes. So similarly, when it comes to cyber crimes against women, there are some committed only for the reason that the victim is from a particular gender. So the reason for commission of crime is gender related. So therefore, there are authors recognizing this as gender-based crimes. Post Nirbhaya, when we amended the Indian Penal Code, we added a lot of provisions through which crimes against women could be regulated through separate and specific and stringent provisions. And interestingly, a lot of these provisions recognized cyber crimes against women for the first time. So otherwise, we just treated cybercrime as a gender-neutral crime. So most often, crimes like hacking, data theft, or malware attacks were recognized as crimes of concern that required a state regulatory approach. But with the 2013 amendment to Indian Penal Code, we started recognizing other offences like voyeurism, cyber stalking, online sexual harassment, intimidation, etc. So all these were recognized as crimes specifically against women. So that was a good change in the laws, which in fact led to this recognition of gender-specific crimes against women, especially on cyberspace. Now, this was just the substantive law, so which means you define a crime, you recognize a wrong as a crime, but the whole challenge lied in the way in which you would implement this law. So then comes our procedural law, CRPC, which is now Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita. We had a lot of challenges in terms of like even getting a case registered. So there were a lot of incidences which even continues now to be the same scenario. You go to register a case in a police station, you're asked to go to cyber police, you go to cyber police, you're asked to go to regular police. So this was the issue. Despite a lot of circulars coming in between by states, DGPs of various states, including Maharashtra, Karnataka, saying that local police can also investigate, but it was always a challenge to get a case registered. Both side, victim side, I want to register. I know there was a reluctancy to register a case. Then police side also, if they had to register, there was always this problem of jurisdiction. Now we're talking about a space that has no geographical boundaries, that is cyberspace. Or even in an offline scenario, establishing the jurisdiction is tough because the accused or a victim or a witness may not be in the police station limits of a police, even though I want to investigate. So this was the challenge. We're trying to overcome this through a lot of judicial interpretations. Court started talking about zero FIR. Don't look for jurisdiction, just register FIR. But okay, registering FIR is alone not a solution, right? Then who will investigate? I register, I don't assign a number. So it's called zero FIR, but who will investigate? So if I don't investigate, I had to send it to a police station with jurisdiction. Again, there was another obstacle. Now BNSS tries to remove this because it now uses a provision through which eFIR gets recognized. Apart from zero FIR today, you have eFIR. So online also, I can now file an FIR. So which is a very good solution when it comes to especially vulnerable victims like women or children. But again, the challenge is, okay, if you register, investigate, fine. If you don't register, if you register and don't investigate, the challenge continues. Though we have one section, like let's assume I end up investigating, no one can challenge my jurisdiction. For example, section 156 of CRPC says, once I start investigating, no one should cause an obstacle in the name of not having jurisdiction. So legally, we are coming up with remedies. But again, practically, problem is, what if the victim is in some other state, witness is in some other state? Let's assume the witness is in Delhi. So, video conference now can be used to record the statement. So all these are fine. So with BNSS, we've tried to resolve the issues within the nation. Because now, like, you can even take online witness statement, victim statement, online trial also can be done. Again, as a criminal law students or teachers, we should think how fair this is. But yeah, at least you can do a process now. Is this fair from the accused perspective? Is a debatable issue. So at least within the country, we seem to have resolved the issue. But outside the country is where the challenge lies. So for example, let's assume the internet service provider whose service has been used to commit a crime like stalking, voyeurism. If he's not an Indian-based internet service provider, it's very tough to see coordination. And we all know that the internet services we use are not Indian-based. You name any, they're not definitely Indian. Right? The Gmails, the Yahoo Mail, or think of social media platform, Facebook, Twitter, Insta, WhatsApp. So none of these are Indian-based service providers. So there comes the actual issue of jurisdiction. Now all these are foreign-based companies. When you ask them to share evidence, so here is the conflicting issue. As a police, it's evidence for me. As a citizen, it's data for you. As an industry, it's a raw material for them. So that data has different dimensions. Industry doesn't want to give this because then their business gets affected. I don't want my data to be compromised because it's about my data privacy. Then, the sufferer is the justice system, the victim. So amidst all this is that whole concern of how do you access this data, especially if it is not in our country. Now, as a police officer, I can go do search, seizure and all, provided the data is in our country. Most often, we all know data is not stored in our country. Right? It's often stored on clouds, which are nothing but remotely located servers. And a lot of research have shown that except for few servers from these significant social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, etc., except for few in Singapore, there is no other server located in South Asia. So all the countries from South Asia struggle to get data, which is nothing but evidence. So a lot of cases fail here. Right? So you can't trace the accused, you can't collect the evidence because they're not in India. Your summons will fail, your warrants will fail because you can't execute it beyond India. So that is one of the challenge. Is the reason why a lot of people have started talking about data localization. We want our data to be here. It should not go elsewhere because if it goes elsewhere, it's a threat to sovereignty, security. It's an obstacle for crime regulation. Now when it goes outside the country, it's of more a concern for, again, victims who are women and children. Why? Because a crime against women, if it's recognized as a crime in India, may not be so in another country. For example, publication of objectionable contents like porn material, obscenity, etc., is not a crime across the world. So let's assume I ask for evidence from a country where it is not a crime. They will not respond because of a legal obstacle. We have a principle called principle of double criminality. Unless it's a crime in your country, you will not cooperate with me. So that is another problem. Now, as a victim, as an aggrieved, if I want to seek remedy from the website, I directly write to the website. Right, saying, look, this is indecent content, block it. I'm sure you would have tried it on Facebook, etc. Many times they'll say, no, we can't do anything because according to our community standard, this is nothing. So what is this community standard? In our society, maybe this is illegal, indecent, but in their country, it may not be illegal. So, it may not be against their community standard. They may not even restrict it. They may not even block it. They may not even remove it. And that is where the challenge lies. I'm sure you've all heard about Shreya Singhal judgment. Right? So through which Supreme Court did a very good thing of recognizing our right to freedom of speech and expression on cyberspace. It said you can write anything on cyberspace because it's within your Article 19(1)(a) right to freedom of speech and expression. But unfortunately, when I write something which is indecent, which is abusive of women, children, so unless you're able to convince the internet platform, like, say, look, this is illegal as per Indian criminal law, they wouldn't remove. And after Shreya Singhal judgment, lot of cases, internet platforms were refusing to remove those contents, saying your own Supreme Court allows. So that was, of course, an erroneous interpretation. But see the impact of a judgment, which became an obstacle for a long time, from 2013 when the decision came till 2018. Because in 2018, to overcome this obstacle, we had to amend intermediary guidelines. So now every intermediary is supposed to respond to law enforcement agencies' orders. When they ask you to remove, you should remove. When they ask you to give data, you should give. But how many follow? I'm sure you're following the news related to X company. Right? X is now refusing to cooperate with government and the matter is pending before Delhi High Court. Now most often, again, that is where the whole problem lies. Because when it comes to offences against women especially, it is our social factors, cultural factors which determines what is abusive to her, what is an offence against her. Your social factors might be different. You may not recognize it as a concern, but for us it's a serious concern. We've seen a lot of marriage prospectus getting affected because there's some indecent content about the women on cyberspace. So that's another concern. And then when something goes wrong, we often blame the victim. For example, there was one case that unfortunately happened in Tamil Nadu, where a girl had a Facebook profile which had a decent photograph. But someone tagged that photograph with an abusive text message. And when police were genuinely trying to get it down after an FIR was filed, initially parents blamed their daughter, saying, why are you even on Facebook? Why do you even accept unknown people's friend requests? Right? That's how we are usually made to respond to incidences. We blame the victims. Finally, parents decided to file an FIR. So after the FIR was filed, the police were genuinely trying to get it blocked or removed. But it took some time because you had to convince Facebook, like, look, this is an abusive content, because for them, as per community standard, it was not an issue. Right? And they were taking time to understand, and the next day the girl opens the Facebook account with the hope that that abusive content is no more there, but unfortunately it was there. She committed suicide. Right? So like this, a lot of incidences where the victim continues to suffer because the pace at which the crime is committed is faster compared to the pace at which you're trying to rectify it. So especially when it comes to cybercrime, investigation is one issue because investigation has its own challenges. It is a time-consuming process, complicating process, especially on cyberspace. It has to overcome jurisdictional issues, and jurisdiction gets complicated further because in that jurisdiction it may not be a crime. In that jurisdiction, even though it's a crime, their procedural laws might be different. For example, US has recently passed a law called Clouds Act. Now, according to that act, if you want any evidence from US, including data, your law should be similar to their law. Best example to show that ours is different. In our country, we can ask you to provide a data just by issuing a notice. Police can ask you. They have power under section 91, which is renumbered under BNSS. 91 CRPC says, I issue a notice, you should respond. So police can directly ask you to provide evidence or block something, etc. And 93 says you can go through the court also. Court can order you to remove the contents. Now, as per Cloud Act, you should only come through the court. Any country which has something like 91 can never get evidence from US. So, they want us to rewrite our CRPC as per their terms. So today also that's what X company is asking for. While I'm not against the fundamental rights of citizens, It should not turn out to be an obstacle for regulation of crimes which are of serious concern for our women and children. So unless online safety is ensured, your digital divide cannot be cured. You may get access to this technology, but unless the space is safer, we are definitely, still worried if our kids are using, cyberspace, because you don't know who is interacting with the children there, etc. Right? And there are a lot of incidences indicating how they've been subjected to online grooming, other offenses, sextortion, revenge pornography, right? So there are a lot of other offenses that targets children and women, and all these can't be cured unless we have access to evidence, which requires going beyond the jurisdiction. Now, what is the solution? Signing MOUs with as many countries as possible, and that's what currently the government is doing since last decade. We've been signing individually agreements with a lot of countries. So to an extent, it's a better scenario compared to last few years, also especially after 2018, since we amended intermediary guidelines. But still, a lot of such cases, like what happened in Tamil Nadu, continues. There's one girl who committed suicide few years back in Mangalore, and in her death note, she says, please ban Facebook. This was again a case of online grooming and sextortion. And today we see that, digital arrest is also becoming very dramatic. Just today's newspaper, I read like a couple ended their life fearing digital arrest. Right? So it's not sparing anyone, the children, the age, and in this case, both were 70 plus couple. So even the senior citizens. So, while cyber technology is supposed to be advantageous, it's supposed to be a platform where we connect, we share, we get the knowledge or information. Unfortunately, it's also becoming tools in the hands of perpetrators of crime, which is making already vulnerable victims like children and women more vulnerable to these platforms when they're abused. Now, the remedy, the platform itself should be used as a tool to regulate this crime, and that's what we're trying to do through BNSS. But I think that's not the end. So there's a long way to go. So unless, of course, individually we all know how to use the technology, how to be careful at individual level, more and more platforms like this where we deliberate upon concerns there and we participate in it, take the benefits of it, and unless the government also keeps periodically changing the law. But many times in our country, what we see is the intention of the government is very good. So you draft a law like 66A, intermediary guidelines, but you don't check on the constitutionality. Right? We don't want to abuse the fundamental rights of someone or infringe these rights. So unless you draft a law which is legally is also valid, the route you take to achieve that objective should also be fine. And I think that is where departments like this should collaborate. Women Studies Department would have got wonderful data to indicate kind of concerns women have, and Department of Law can give legal solutions. Unless, especially cyber law, I think should be framed by all the stakeholders directly or indirectly involved in this domain. So I think platforms like this would be definitely helpful in coming out with meaningful solutions. So this is in brief about the concerns we have when it comes to regulating cybercrime, especially related to jurisdiction, which again is a concern when it comes to regulating any crime, and more a concern when it comes to women and children, because what we recognize as an offense in our country may not be an offense elsewhere, since our cultural and social factors differ. I look forward for more interaction during the question and answer session. Thank you so much.
That was really a perfect 15 out of 15. Maybe she had the stopwatch. Good. So it was a very good rehearsal. She has made all the points. Of course, I'll come back to her topic, the important highlights. Without wasting much time, may I invite Professor Sapna, Dean of Law, Christ University. She will examine technology facilitated gender violence in the modern workspaces, a qualitative study of women's experience. So over to you, Sapna. And your classmates, okay, try to beat your junior. Take only 15 or less than 15.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಸುದೇಶ್ ಸರ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು ಭಾಳ ಸತ್ಯ. ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಒಂಥರ ತವ್ರ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದಂಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ದೇಸ್ ಅ ಜೆಂಡರ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ. ಹೆಣ್ಮಗಳು ಮದುವೆ ಆಗಿ ಕೊಟ್ಮೇಲೆ ತವ್ರ ಮನೆಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಸತಿ ಬರೋದು, ಮತ್ತೆ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಜೆಂಡರ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂ ವೇರ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ವಿಲ್ ಸೇ ಎಸ್ ಸತಿಯಪ್ಪ ತವ್ರ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಇವರು ಅಂತ. ಬಟ್ ಸುದೇಶ್ ಸರ್, even when we are in our matrimonial home, we nothing but blessings and good wishes that we have, and we are doing so well only because of all the fabulous foundation that you have given us. respected teachers and all my dear friends and colleagues who are here with us today. This is what I'm going to be speaking about, where I will be looking at technology-facilitated gender violence in the modern workspace. And this is a work that is ongoing, which is a qualitative study of women's experience. So let me just take you very quickly, what is the meaning of technology-facilitated gender violence? Now, this is not just a phrase, but this is a phrase which the United Nations recognize for the online violence against women. So it says that these are those kinds of online violence where the violence gets assisted by technology, it gets aggravated by technology, or then it gets amplified by technology. So it is just not a medium, but then this is a place because it just aggravates how the technology against women are already there. So if you just take a look, there are so many different kinds of violence that happens against women. I have just given the examples of few. So maybe it could be something that relates to doxing. Doxing refers to when private information are leaked out, and this was an information that somebody was privy to. You were there in that privileged position, you had privilege to that information, and that was supposed to be confidential. Maybe it could be somebody like a counselor, or it could be like a doctor. So that is a very information which is private. Or say, for example, image-based abuse is another thing that very rampantly happens. Or it could also be where there is online violence because there is somebody who's trying to stalk you in the online way. There is sexual harassment that is happening in the online way. And then again, there is a lot of bullying that happens. There is cyberbullying that happens in an online way, and so many other things. So therefore, it could be any one of these. It could be sextortion, it could be image-based abuse, it could be doxing, it could be cyberbullying, hate speech, online impersonation, or using technology to locate survivors of abuse in order to inflict further violence. So these basically are what are technology-facilitated gender violence. Now, this is what my abstract reads. But then I will just show you a pictorial version of what I mean by the abstract. Now, this basically is the pictorial version of the abstract because I don't want you to read it text by text. So what am I looking at? Now, for me, my hypothesis is that technology is evolving, and so will violence evolve along with technology. But understand, just because it is online violence or it is technology-facilitated violence does not mean that it is away from the society. It has all those things that the society has, all those adversities, all those negative things that the society has. It is still having all those things. So it has patriarchy, it has a male domination, it has the gender norms, it has the stereotypes. It is not divorced from that. It cultures in that. It grows in that. So then what happens? What is the crucial connection that we are trying to connect the dots? There will be normalization, just like the way normalization of domestic violence. Now, I'm just able to recollect this one instance, which was a real life instance. Now, there was this one person who was my administrative support staff in my earlier organization. Now, as heading the organization and she as the administrative support staff, we were the only two people who would come very early to the institution. Now, we were like that on one of these days where we were early, and we just ended up having a chat. And then she was telling me this one thing where she said she had two daughters. Both the daughters were married. One daughter was married, the elder one, but her husband was alcoholic. He would not work, no income, and there was violence in her home day in and day out. And then she had a younger daughter. The younger daughter was a widow. Now she was earning, but then this lady had to tell me that, the younger daughter is one whom I'm very worried about. Why is she worried about the younger daughter? Because she does not have a male partner. She's supposed to be alone, irrespective of the fact that she was working, she was doing well for herself, but the only point was that she did not have a partner. So we understand how the culture works. So that was normalization for her. So she was telling me that it is okay. He does not beat as much as the other people do, but he's still okay. He's still under control. He's an alcoholic, but it doesn't matter. He doesn't beat her much. So this is what we mean by a sense of normalization. So that is the major danger. So what am I looking at? So therefore, I'm trying to understand in this study that, now what is this online violence doing? What is technology-facilitated violence doing? It has actually created an additional vertical. There's a new vector now for gender-based violence. It is not just a medium. It is not that anyway it would have happened, now it is happening online. No, this is an additional thing. This is something that has happened additionally. So this is a new vertical. And let's never forget. Now, this is multiplying, this is aggravating, and the reason is because women's experiences are not discounted for. Now, let's understand that women's experience were never discounted for, and that's the reason why we have gender studies, why we have critical gender studies, and why we are speaking about the historical injustices. Now, say, for example, take Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan. What had happened in Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan? 1997. We had got independence in 1947, but it was in 1997 that we suddenly realized that we do not have a law that protects women at workplace. And then we had to get the CEDAW, and after that we had this Vishaka guidelines. And because it was called Vishaka guidelines, people conveniently took advantage of that and said, anyway, it is guidelines and we don't have to follow. Now, it took another Nirbhaya. There was another gang rape, and after which the 2013 enactment was made. And again, don't forget that even during the Vishaka guidelines, now what did the High Court of Rajasthan say? Now, irrespective of the fact that the victim was able to say, this is what I suffered and this is how brutally I was violated. Now, they did not believe what she had to say. The High Court said, these 5 people are respectable people of the village panchayat. They are not capable of committing a crime like this. So that is the reason why we say women's accounts are never taken into consideration, and it has been a historical injustice for a very long period of time. So what am I looking for in this research paper? I'm looking for not just law, because law is there. Maybe, implementation may be there, may not be there. Laws are there, but laws cannot be the panacea for all that we are taking. So what I'm looking at is that, can we look at an intervention framework? So that is what we are going to be looking at. So just take a look at here. Now, when we speak about technology-facilitated gender-based violence, now we are basically looking at, why is it called a gender-based violence? Now, the reason why it is called as a gender-based violence is that, take a look at statistics, it is women who are affected, and they are in a disproportionate position. Now, who are affected by gender-based violence? It is women, it is girls, it is trans, gender-diverse people. Now, what is the meaning of gender-diverse people? It could be male, but this male is not able to fit into the male-dominated bracket. So they also fit under this, against whom they will be violated. But some are disproportionately violated. And who are they? Now, they could be women who are in an abusive relationship. Haven't we seen? They would have filed for divorce, or they're fighting for custody, and suddenly you see that the Facebook is hacked, and then you have all kind of abuses that happens on the Facebook. Suddenly the intimate photos are out on the Facebook, they're out on the media. Now, it is because of the kind of the shame and the stigma that gets attached to it. Women, girls, LGBTQIA plus people who face intersecting systemic violence. Now, gender does not exist in silos. It is not just about women. It is not just about gender. So what happens in gender is that there is an intersectionality. Intersectionality happens because she's a woman, but then she could be a woman who's disabled. She's a woman, but then she could be from a marginalized society. She's a woman, but then she's from the rural area. So there are a lot of intersections which amplify what she's already facing. Young women and girls, women in public and political lives. Now, all these things are taken from the United Nations website, which along with the statistics say how they are disproportionately violated and how they disproportionately suffer. Now, why is this complex? Why are we even speaking about it? Why is it complex? The reason why online violence or technology-facilitated violence gains complexity is because of certain factors. The first factor is that it can amplify harm. Because just imagine the reach, just imagine the transmission. It just takes a second, isn't it, for something to go viral. Everybody knows about it. Around the world, people will talk about it. So the kind of the transmission and the reach it has can be very quick. And the next one is that it can be carried out at increased speed and rates, of course. It can be easily perpetrated using low-cost technology. Today, you don't need to be an expert in technology in order to put reels, in order to put something on the media. It takes anybody and everybody are making reels today. So it does not even take much skill for that. Anonymity and encryption. Now, anonymity gives a lot of courage to people who are doing it. Now, I will just tell you, a few of the instances, because I'm on the external committee of the ministries and then the private organizations, and there was this one thing that I have seen. Whenever you are able to, message something on the WhatsApp, you're able to do it with a lot of courage. You're able to articulate much better than the way you'd have done to a person face to face. Now, there was this one instance in a very huge government organization which has only scientists. Now, this was a place where they were celebrating International Women's Day. They had invited an IAS officer as the guest for this International Women's Day. there is this one male who was coordinating with her. Now, naturally, he felt that I have been coordinating with her, so the next thing I will do is that I will send all the photos of the function to her. He did, but then he did another thing. Now, when he sent the photos, he sent a few photos which were in the group, and then he just cuts, he crops only her photo, and down he writes, "You are blessed with very good assets." Now, she said, "I don't like it." The next thing that he does is he sends a thumbs up. Now, she got wild. She said, "I'm now going to teach you what it is to do these kinds of things." And when we called him to the internal committee, and when we had to ask him what was the reason for doing this, he just told us that, "I did not even realize that she will take it as an offense. I meant it to be a compliment, and I thought she will be happy about it." So these are the kinds of the things which technology has facilitated. It has aggravated. Probably he would have never had the guts to stand in front of her and give her these kind of compliments, but he was able to do it because it was online. There was an anonymity. And don't forget, there is also that, there are two things. So one is the primary perpetrator. So these are the people who have done it. But apart from that, just imagine the scale of the secondary perpetrators. Who are secondary perpetrators? Those who forward it. Those who still, spread it across. So these are the secondary perpetrators. So that is why we say it amplifies to such a big extent. And of course, like what Dr. Nagratna was also just telling, it is not that easy to just pull down something. Things remain there, and there is often a lot of delays and difficulties in removing harmful content, and it may be available for a very long time, and sometimes people don't want to forget negative things. They want it to be there, and they continue to remain there. So these are the complexities that come with that. So that is why this is the intervention framework that I'm basically working on through a qualitative data analysis. There are three things. First thing is that, albeit all the laws that we have, there are certain principles that we should always remember. Specifically, these principles are gender sensitive in nature. You might have the law, we have the BNSS, and I don't know how many of you have seen, when it comes to medical examination of the rape victim, I was very surprised to know the medical examination need not have to be conducted compulsorily by a female medical officer. It can be by anybody. So they don't specify that it has to be a female medical officer. So that is why it is very important to have the gendered lens, to have the gender sensitivity. So what are the three basic principles? It always will have to be survivor-centered. It will have to be non-discriminatory. There will have to be participatory, in the decision-making, accountability, and it will have to be gender transformative. And the next one is that, say, for example, organizations. Now I'm working on another project for the State Commission where we are looking at anti-retaliatory provisions in the Sexual Harassment Act of 2013. You don't have an anti-retaliatory provision as of now, but isn't it required that there has to be an anti-retaliatory laws? Now, why is an anti-retaliatory provision important? Say, for example, a woman has faced online sexual harassment. She files complaint. The next day, she knows that people are not giving her work. People are not behaving with her properly. People have not given her cabin. Her computer has been locked. These are the things that happens in real life. So should there not be something like that? So that is what we mean when we say organizational collective care is very important. This, I feel, is the most important thing, because when a woman suffers this kind of a gender violence, she comes with a lot of distrust. She is looked up with a lot of distrust. It takes a lot of care. It takes a lot of courage for her to come forward and for her to say, I'm not going to worry about the stigma. I'm not going to worry about the taboos. I'm not going to worry about the silence culture that surrounds me, but I'll still have the courage to do what I have to do. So that's why this becomes very important. Very important to have multi-stakeholder engagement. Now, say, for example, we are sitting here. We have people from different stakeholders to speak about it. Maybe there should be a trans who's speaking about it. Maybe there should be a person who does not fit into the male bracket who has to speak about it. Unless different perspectives are taken, it becomes very difficult in order to have these interventions. So what should be the pillars of this framework? First thing is prevention. Just take a look at the POSH Act. It says prevention, prohibition, and redressal. So prevention, all said and done, is the first important thing. There will have to be prevention. And advocacy and campaigns can be very transformative. People need to know about it. People first need to know. Say, for example, I was doing this one project for the Bangalore Police Research and Development, where we were looking at integrated centers. Integrated centers are otherwise called as the Sakhi centers or the Nirbhaya centers, but people hardly know about it. They can be quite good, but people don't even know that they exist. So that is the reason why advocacy and campaigns becomes very important. And the next important pillar is that how are you responding? Are you you even giving that kind of a conducive atmosphere, or are you being so hostile that the woman does not even want to come forward to tell you anything? So that is again a very important thing. So the most important thing that I am doing is about the data and evidence. Now, any one of the work that you see in the outside countries tell you that how is your work gauged? What is the weight of your work? It is the weight of your work is on the basis of the measurable outcome. What is the measurable outcome? There will have to be evidence. Why am I speaking like that? Why am I saying that it is only women who are affected? Because I have the data with me. I have the numbers with me. So are we able to have that kind of data and evidence is what I'm looking for in this work. So this very quickly was what I was doing. We will go to the last session to say thank you.
Fortunately, she is the senior compared to Nagratna, so I've given her the liberty to exceed the time limit. You exceeded by exactly 6 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we have Amrita Mukherjee, madam. She'll be speaking on bridging dreams with technology, empowering women through digital connectivity. I believe you are a journalist, madam? You were? I'm not. Okay, good. No, that was just to tell the audience that she will maintain her timings. Thank you.
So first of all, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I must say that I'm honored and humbled to be among all the accomplished senior leaders from academia, and I'm not from academia, so you can also say I'm a bit overwhelmed, but I'm taking my notes. I've been diligent since yesterday. So my topic, as Sir mentioned, it's bridging dreams with technology. So it's not really aligned to the topic that we talked about, so we'll do a little bit of switching of gears here. And but one thing I must tell before saying anything else, that I have lived this experience, bridging dreams with technology. I have done it, lived it, and I'm trying to make it happen for others. So while the study that I have done has a lot of data, but I realized that since yesterday, I think we have heard and seen a lot of data. So instead of putting some data on the screen, I thought I'll share some story. So I was a young, ambitious, small-town girl from a family of 3 generations of doctor. And I walked away silently from the medical entrance exam hall in the first hour. Well, please don't get me wrong. I have a lot of respect for doctors, and I was not walking away from a dream or ambition or working hard. I was walking away from something that was not mine. I felt I could have become a doctor maybe with some effort, but I don't think I would be the best. I have grown up loving literature, language, and history. That is what I wanted to study and eventually pursue a career in journalism, which didn't happen because my father had a very restricted span of opportunity set for us, defined medical or engineering. So I surrendered and I said, okay, I'll do engineering. And I thought that maybe my love for computers will keep me motivated. My mother, on the other side, she is a very talented, dynamic woman who has given up on her own career for raising a family. And for her, making her daughters, not only, of course, the son as well as daughters, financially independent was the definition of freedom. And I wholeheartedly believed her. So I poured all my energy into building a career which will pay me. I climbed up the corporate ladder. Fast forward few years, I was doing well, I think. I was one of the top few women in technology in Goldman Sachs India. I was getting paid well, and I was, I think, living a life which is considered good from a different kind of societal standards. But I wasn't happy. There was something which was missing. And I thought maybe changing a job would be working the trick. So I changed a job. I went to another US bank. So I worked there for 3 years, but then one day it hit me that it is never the job, it's not the work. I think it's the impact that I'm making among the people, right? What's the difference that I make as I walk into my workplace day to day? So that's the problem that I figured out. So yesterday, Professor Shabri Bhattacharya talked about prejudice. She talked about lack of role model. And that is the very problem that I noticed around us. I saw a lot of talented women were giving up on their dreams just because they did not have a role model. Even if there was a role model, they were far out of their reach. They thought, yeah, she did it, maybe not me. I can't do it. So here I will share some very, very quick data points, which is very close to my heart, because I'm an engineer, and I see still, the number is only 28 to 29% when it comes to women in computing jobs. AI, slightly less. And when we go to cloud computing, it's actually 12%. And to make it even worse, the women in computing, most of the women, 50% to be specific, leave their job by the age of 35. So what remains from the beginning to the end? And that is the reason we don't see many women in the top. The decision makers, the leaders, are mostly men. As someone who has extensively worked in data analytics, data science, and designing algorithmic models, which is another topic we have been talking about, I know the importance of training the models with a diverse set of data. And who prepares those data? People. It's us who make those data possible. And having representation of women on those tables to make sure that the data is inclusive enough and good enough to have the model trained is absolutely going to change the game. So when I noticed all of this, I took a leap of faith. I stepped away from my predictable path. And when I did that, I achieved my long pending dream of publishing a book worldwide, doing a course on emotional intelligence and professional coaching, and also starting a company. I did all of these within few months from the comfort of my home, without even stepping a foot outside. And technology made it possible. While we have been talking about a lot of challenges that is associated with technology, without technology, what I have done wouldn't have been possible. So starting from the account opening to working with my chartered accountant to create a legal setup, doing the app development, the website development, all the way to marketing, and that's where we use social media. Everything is happening from home. And I also see many women are leveraging that platform to make their dreams, turn their dreams into reality. So today, I stand in front of all of you representing Shivolution, which is the company that I have built on the core belief that empowered women can absolutely change the world for better. Through my own journey in the corporates and also as a career coach and mentor, I have realized 3 fundamental truths. Gender inclusion cannot start at the boardroom. It must start at the grassroots level from childhood. Self-respect and self-reliance is a choice that we women must make every single day. And titles and salaries do not define us. It's our conviction that does. As a mother of 2 young boys, I feel even deeper responsibility to shape the future, to create a world where they see women as equals, decision makers, leaders, and change makers. And that's what Shivolution is all about. At Shivolution, we give women access to curated content that can help them improve their communication, negotiation, influencing, leadership, and public speaking skills. Apart from content, the members also have ongoing access to senior leaders across the globe, across the industry. They take them as mentees. We also provide one-on-one and group coaching. And we are all providing a community which is bound by the core value of mutual support. I'm happy and proud to share that just 2 days ago, we actually conducted a virtual session. And through that virtual session, we were able to pair a young woman from Uttarakhand who was confused how to progress in her career to a mentor who is sitting here in Bangalore in one of the corporation and who has 20 years of experience. And now she's not going to give up on her engineering career and is going to pursue it. So yesterday, Dr. Michelle Ho talked about teaching young women about emotional and physical boundaries, consent on explicit sexual content. Shivolution is also creating a workshop for a school in Odisha where we will be teaching them these, along with other things like financial literacy, self-reliant living, and how to manage peer pressure, and so on and so forth. So we are a for-profit company, but with a mission-driven heart. So we took intentional decision to ensure that from application development to marketing, most part of our team are women. So while we work with professionals and corporates, we are also deeply committed to social impact. Our vision is to build a structured CSR initiative, dedicating a fixed part of our profit to empowering young women from underprivileged background, helping them develop skills that will help them chase their dreams. Today, I'm among leaders, educators, and change makers. So you shape minds, influence policies, and create environments where young people discover their potential. So I ask for your support. I ask for your support to ensure students are not walking away from their true dreams because they don't have the confidence or the support to pursue it. To ensure that hundreds of future leaders rise by leveraging the right guidance from those who has the wealth of experiences. I would like to leave you with just one thought. Structured mentorship programs for students that go beyond academic excellence. Programs that equip young women with knowledge of financial literacy and budgeting. Enhance their confidence by overcoming imposter syndrome. And just to let you know, like 75% of women in technology has reported to have imposter syndrome, for which they have given up on good opportunities that were provided to you. And we also give effective communication and public speaking, and we can prepare independent living girls with independent living skills and self-reliance. So we would like to partner with institutions, universities to develop some of these programs and contribute in any way we can so that we can build more confident and thriving leaders for future. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to share my latest research with this international conference, Gender, Power and Technology, addressing violence and intersections in the digital age. And especially Dr. Kumud Sumeda, who invited me to make some contribution to your marvelous, interesting conference. And we can exchange our two countries' historical and genealogical as well as the present scenario in this context. I'm really happy to engage with most of your research, and we need your help as a country to develop these scales of disciplines as well as the ground level changes. So today my research paper and the presentation for this international conference is originally based on my doctoral study, which is carried on recently in the United Kingdom in Newcastle University under Professor Chris Haywood and Gareth Longstaff. So my topic is super masculine hyperbolic image in fake Facebook profiles. The rural young men's realization of same-sex desires and heteronormative hegemonic masculinity. So I am a senior lecturer in the Department of Mass Communication, University of Kelaniya, Faculty of Social Sciences, Sri Lanka. We invite you to come with our latest research, and the next year or so, we are going to make another international conference on masculinity studies. So what is this research? So I'm going to introduce what I'm going to do before you in this international conference. So young men use fake Facebook profiles with hypermasculine images is my key theme. So this study explores why rural young men construct such identities online. I mean, the fake face profiles. In the broader part of my thesis, doctoral thesis, concentrated on digital public relations. So my laboratory was the same sexual intimacies. That is how it is happen in the virtual space, in a digital network, social media context. So in a prehistorical as well as colonial, feudal, administrative, cultural, religious background, while the digital media is expanding mushroomingly over the space and intruding into the physical spaces, how people enjoy their broad intimacies is the fact. In this paper, my research focus is the relationship between same-sex desires, heteronormative ideals, and hegemonic masculinity. So my research is a qualitative, inductive design. Analysis as being the epistemology in my research. So the methodology is qualitative research. In this research, 20 participants and in-depth interviews from 10 participants and online ethnography Facebook observations. So this one other chapter based on my doctoral thesis, not the entire thesis. So the key concepts, what I'm telling before you, is very interesting in this research, that supermasculine hyperbolic image overemphasize masculinity in online self-presentations. So why people create fake profiles to establish their same-sex intimacies interplays with why they want this space, and whether these fake profiles reflect their fake values or norms or their real, actual, sexual, romantic ambitions. So the hegemonic masculinity is a type that we understood that the way how people depict their portrayals, maybe their photos, either through cartoons or whatever it is, why people use that kind of a hegemonic masculinity images. So the dominant societal norms reinforcing male superiority. For an example, in the masculinity, Raven Connell argued that the male struggling through to be a real man. In the Sri Lankan literature, Professor Nelupa argued that this real man concept is a socio-cultural construction because of the northeastern war during Sri Lanka, which has happened nearly 30 years or so, that the young men are requested and required to perform heroically in the northeastern war, despite their religious, ethnic background, Tamil, Muslims, Sinhalese. Heteronormativity as a concept which says that how social expectations of heterosexuality as the norm. The heteronormativity has been the dominant hegemonic cultural layer on which people has to construct both virtual and physical identities that they are searching for and seeking same-sexual relationship. So the why Facebook profiles is that digital personas used to explore identity and desires. That Facebook profiles, such as fake, means that they want to clandestinely do as how they have been doing their intimacies in their physical stages using clandestine spaces as bushes, lanes, secret lanes, dilapidated cinema halls, and secret dark times, and all those things. But when it comes to the social media like Facebook, the McGlotton, Shaka McGlotton, a New York media anthropologist, argued that this fake profile reflects the human's true actual desires, though they are fake. Then why the fake profiles? In order to escape from the cultural, religious, political restriction and discriminations. So the finding of my paper gives that a very interesting idea that construction of hyper-masculine identities is the fact. Though they use fake profiles or the virtual space despite their physical space or so, or whether instead they are using their own photos or identities. Why hypermasculine identities? The physical emphasized display of extreme masculine traits as muscle, aggression, confidence. So this gives a chance that though whether they are not apt to their society, which asks them to do as a real men, which compatible to the heterosexual family, that they are requested to produce kid for, and they are requested to sex or romance with heterosexual partners, men and women, as requested by their culture, society, in terms of maintain the reproductive familial values. So self-presentation through such kind of a hegemonic masculine identities is compatible with why people do this so. Because in order to self-defense, that whether they are self-homophobic and shame and fear threats can be tolerated by showing others that even though we are not compatible with the heterosexuality, though we are really interested in the same sexual, we are real man. That what shows society requests from us compatible with the heteronormative, heterosexual, political, cultural values. So using dominant male imagery to appear is that the real man. So that kind of a real man is reflected to why they use hypermasculine identities. So digital performance is very interesting, that identity association through edited photos. It's not their real one. Maybe from out of some of the celebrities from South Asia, neither South Asia nor other globe, whatever they want is that hyperbolic, exaggerative, flamboyant image. So these edited photos are exaggerated, bios and curated photos. Not only the photos, but also the animated, creative, digitalized, artificial intelligent photos are there in order to show that they are compatible with that the socially requested real man. So you will see this kind of photos are very flamboyant, cute, handsome, and illuminating, that young men are struggling to portray that they have six-pack, V-shapes, very marvelous means. This compatibles that through the historical eras, Ajanta Ellora as well as the Hindus and Buddhist statues reflect also this masculine, hegemonic masculine portrait. That I argue in in a broader scale that this is not peculiarly constructions of a digitalized virtual phenomena as popularly domain through that these are coming from the Western world. But I argue in my thesis and this research that this has some implications for arguing to that this has reflected for South Asian, the way of religious, political institutes have been constructed male image as it is. So this has some combine and relationships and intersections with the virtuality and the physicality. So this picture shows that young men always want to show the valor, rigor, and male prowess before the audience. So they always use their hands, their chest, their stomach, not only for the sexual, but also the pleasure and beauty of who are men and what are men, even though they use fake profiles in order to get non-heterosexual partner. So in addition to that, these men, you will see always they are mentally and psychologically fit, because mentally fit in public, even they can't do that in Sri Lankan context. They saw in the virtuality that they are male going to kiss, like male and woman. So they don't see any difference. At the same time, they are physically fit and they are handsome and they are like celebrity models. So the finding gives another chance to argue that social and cultural influences are how interconnected. So heteronormative patriarchy is another concept that reinforces traditional masculinity in South Asian context. So heteronormativity, it has been seen not only on the virtual portrayals, but also in the physical temples, political statues, and all those things, as far as they are requested by the social institutes such as education, religion, politics, culture, values, and all that. Societal homophobia leads to secret online spaces. So I argue why people use fake profiles. It is because of the homophobia means that irrational fear and shame. Irrational fear and shame. So that leads to secret online spaces for expressing same-sex desires. Rural cultural pressures, that mean from the rural culture, it is so heteronormative. They are requested to get married and make relationship with their counterpartners, heterosexual, and properly maintain their reproductive sex and breed kids and conduct their familial conventional ethics and rules. So expectation of hypermasculinity is in male identity is a compatibility and intersections of why they are and how they are socially constructed in their Sri Lankan cultural genealogy. So contradiction and identity struggles is another theme that this thesis found. So men using hypermasculine images to validate their maleness. You see that while they are irrationally homophobic, irrationally feared and shamed because of their self-constructed, that they are doing inconsistent, indecent, discriminative sex and romances, as still Sri Lanka followed the colonial early British 1865 police law and 1883 penal code, which says that same sexual activities are culturally, socially, and legally inconsistent, and therefore it is indecent and immoral. So why people use hypermasculine image, I argue that they are depicting that maleness, yet they are not incongruent with heteronormative heterosexual demands. So the fear of exposure leads to strategic digital identity manipulation. Fear of exposure leads to strategically create who they are, not only using other celebrity icons images or other young men's photos, they use some cartoons and other pictures and other most updated technology as AI to construct who are men, and men's ability, men's valor, and men's prowessness at their relationships. So this has some paradox. What is that? Reinforcing masculinity norms while secretly resisting them. This is the real dilemma, that you see that this bipolar ethics is there. Why people hegemonically, toxically are representing the virtual space, reinforcing masculinity norms while secretly resisting them. So while they want to appear what they are requested by the society as who the real man branding. But on the other hand, they themselves are irrationally struggle, irrationally appeared, irrationally shamed of what they are doing. This is a cultural, social ramification and repercussions that I'm arguing through this research. So the limitation and the future research of my research is the need for great acceptance of diverse masculinity is essential. We have to consider these things, diverse masculinities. Even the Western or other area have a masculinity. What the researchers like Osella and Osella argue through the South Asian masculinity, it's a variety of masculinities. Masculinities, we can't define and consolidate it to one coherent all. Further research into authentic Facebook profiles and their role in same-sex digital connections. So the further research are requested into authentic face, what people do through their authentic. This research concluded and finding that most of the digital Z generation, so alpha generation people are They don't have such kind of fear relatively with other people. They sometimes, through their real portrayal, real pictures, openly, through their authentic profiles, they are telling who they are. Not only the men, but also the young women or other people. Class. Intersectionality is very essential. So how class, caste, and rural-urban divide and virtual and physical, the connections affect with digital masculinity. This has some idea to argue and later explore what is digital masculinity when it comes to the communication networking and the way how people are connected through the digital space and how they make their trust, rapport, and confidence are requested and implied through this research as the digital publication theoretical underpinning. This has given a much importance that these kind of intimacies are creating non-corporate form of public relations that recently Zizek and all the new public relation theories argue through that it's not the public relation within the corporate monetary institutes, but the non-corporate levels such as virtual space, religious schools, educations, and non-business, government organizational bodies use this for real world social change and activism. So the conclusions of my research is that online masculinity is performative. It's a performative as to some extent Rowan Cornell and Judith Butler argue that it's a performative constructive refiguration. A blend of dominance and secrecy is there in the online masculinity as being it's so performative. A blend of dominance and secrecy. The second one is fake profiles. Fake profiles allow young men to explore desires while upholding traditional norms. This why they are so hegemonic, masculine, even though they use the fake profile, tells that unconsciously they are playing, they are enthralling, they are satisfied. They don't want to questions or argue or eradicate from these colonial or historical or genealogical cultural formations. Finally, the social norms and digital identities interact. The social norms and digital identities are interact. That's what this research concludes. Even though it is virtual, even though it is AI, or whatever the most modern futuristic mode of communications or space, the traditional cultural facets and values and norms of the Homo sapiens are still played and performed in whatever space is very interesting. And shaping expressions of masculinity in post-colonial South Asian culture has this, the social norms and digital identities are intersect and interconnected. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to once again on behalf of the organizing committee and Dr. Kumud Sumedha and Sudasna, who invited me to give some latest research findings in your international conference. I may request and waiting your comments and your responded through my email and whatever you can. I am Dr. Manoj Jinadasa. I stay in all social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, through Facebook, and everywhere. We hope we will do a better future and we can contribute our theoretical contribution to real world global South change. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Okay, time to summarize and wind up the last session of the two-day international conference. May I request all the speakers to kindly occupy the chairs there. This is for the kind information of Professor Sarsu Thomas, your former colleague Dr. Nagratna, and your student Sapna. Both spoke really well, not forgetting Amrita Madam. Anyhow, just in 2-3 minutes, Professor, yeah. I'll summarize because then I will not get time to speak. Just summarizing. Yeah. Professor Nagratna started her presentation by referring to Article 1 of the United Nations Declaration, Elimination of All Forms of Crimes Against Women. Her main contention was that these are gender-related crimes because the target is women. For example, online sexual harassment, gender-based hate speech, etc., etc. She also spoke how earlier the Indian Penal Code and now the BNS, the new law, have tried to somehow recognize these kind of offences and prescribe punishments for them. She said the problem is that the investigating officers, the police officers, are reluctant to register such crimes, and that has been a hindrance. However, she also said that online FIR, zero FIR facilitates to overcome this challenge of not registering crimes against women. Of course, she said that one difficulty is that if the crimes are committed outside India, and when the data is stored outside India, then there's a real problem, because data is evidence, and if you don't get evidence, you fail to prosecute the person. She was hopeful. She said the courts in India especially have come forward to deliver justice to women, especially with reference to cyber crimes. Sapna also emphasized on the same aspects of cyber crimes against women, and she said it is technology which is to be blamed, technology being used to commit crimes against women. Her statement that technology is evolving, so is violence, is really the point there, that because of technology now men, the other gender, apart from the traditional crimes against women, using technology as an excuse to commit crime against women. So she says that technology is the vector which is carrying this problem of spreading crimes against women. Her conclusion was that yes, we must have a organizational collective care which will go a far way in preventing these crimes. Ms. Amrita Mukherjee, of course, shared her experience, personal experience, her confusion from medical to journalism, ultimately to engineering, and she says that the absence of role model is a real challenge. Her company, the Shivolution company, is a success model. She says technology can always be used to project women herself, and she can overcome all the stereotypes about women. Professor Manoj from Sri Lanka spoke about this fake profiles being built up on Facebook, which within itself is leading to a sort of crime. Yes, that was my summary. Just 2 or 3 minutes for any questions or clarifications. And before that, let me also tell you some of those who could not observe. There is one round box there, that is artificial technology, which I told Sudeshna madam, it is capturing those faces which were dozing off or snoring, and they may not be given certificates in the end. Thank you. Now the forum is open for questions and clarifications, if any, or some additions, if at all you have listened carefully. At least through my summary, you could have some questions. Yeah, I think Professor Satish Gowda, the chairman of the department, will always have a question.
Good evening. My question is to Madam. You have spoken really well about the jurisdictional issues. But when it comes to the comparison, of course, India is a country with diverse. And you told about signing MOU with developed countries, somehow we can resolve the issues. But when it comes to the diversity and comparatively with developed countries, here celebrities can go and approach any extent. But you should see the vulnerability in the country like India. And you spoke about the liability of internet service provider and localization of data. That's really wonderful suggestion. But when it comes to India is a country where there is a lack of digital literacy, you find. If you just compare with any other nation in the world, I keep telling whenever I teach my students, India cannot be compared with any other nation in the world for so many reasons. We have unlimited population with limited resources. Whereas when you go to EU and other countries, they have unlimited resource with limited population. They can do whatever they want. Governance is very beautiful and easy there. But a country like India, it's quite difficult. And we always speak about that case you said about 1918 and all. According to me, as a constitutional teacher, no fundamental rights in absolute nature. Because unlike in America, still today they don't have reasonable restriction in their constitution. But we have a reasonable restriction. When it comes to the vulnerability, it is the duty of nation to take care and protect the measures of the vulnerable sections of the society when they are going to be victimized. When I was in China, in fact, I wanted to make comparison, see, because you told about signing MOU may be helpful to the celebrities who can fight going up to the Supreme Court. And I always make fun. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar strongly advocated that Article 32 is the heart and soul of the Constitution. But that heart and soul, it beats only for elite class. People from a small village or small taluk, they cannot approach the court. So in this regard, why can't we see if you go to the China, because our comparison should be taking with the country having vast population. Where when I was in China also, they have completely banned platform like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, right? So and there they have, in Chinese government, maintains system of internet censorship known as Great Firewall to control access to information and restrict access to certain websites and services. As part of censorship, popular Western social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp are blacked, along with the service like Google, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter. Now, in place of these blocked platforms, Chinese users primarily utilize domestic social media platform. Why can't we adapt the same system what they have? Of course, when we come to discuss about the freedom, rights and all, something goes wrong to the vulnerable sections of the society, they cannot approach to the court of law. That can be done by people who are elite class can go and approach. They have access even to go to international court or just wherever. That is not a big issue for the jurisdictional issue for the haves. But what about the have-nots? India is a country with a diverse and vulnerability is more comparatively than. In this regard, what is your opinion and views?
I'm just trying to recollect.
In conclusion, I wanted to say, signing MOU with developed countries, can you really resolve the jurisdictional issue? This is the thing.
In fact, in your question lies my answer. These are the challenges. So while signing MOU can be a remedy only for some forms of cybercrime. So because when I spoke about the crimes against women and children,
to whom matters.
So that's what not every country recognizes same as an offense. Like I was giving the example of obscenity, right? So there are a lot of offenses which are not recognized worldwide. So even signing MOU is not a solution in those cases. But fortunately, at least for children, you have UNCRC, and every country takes child protection as a priority. So therefore, we have international collaboration when it comes to regulating at least child pornography, child sexual abusive material, that. But for other offenses, including against women, I'm sure it will be tough. That's what I was repeatedly mentioning. Signing MOU can be, to some extent, a partial remedy. That too, when the other country should recognize it as an offense. Now, usually, internationally, unless that convention or your agreement says, okay, these are the crimes for which you are going to cooperate, even that agreement will not be helpful. So, therefore, your question itself is an indication of the problem we have, for which solution is definitely very difficult.
Because why can't we have, if you go to China, they have
now coming to the China's issue.
WeChat is there.
Yeah. So, I know maybe audience will say, how many of you are on Facebook, Twitter, Yahoo? I'm sure all of us are on one or the other platform. Did any one of you use Coup? No, right? We tried our own. I'm not saying good or bad. That's another debatable issue. But I think having our own infrastructure is good, but is not a solution. We're talking about a platform that is universal. It's World Wide Web. We should get the advantage of it. But unfortunately, that World Wide Web internet has become prone to abuse also. But I think restricting ourselves, isolating ourselves is not a solution. Even in China, a lot of youngsters do overcome those barriers and use Facebook coming beyond that. But I think that's not the solution. But yes, when it comes to data localization, having our infrastructure will be helpful. But until we do that, it's a long way to go. It's a huge expenses. See, if you have seen this is Krishna's framed PDP bill, he was insisting for data localization, but industry was against it, because it was a huge financial burden. So DPDP Act compromises there. But I'm sure one or the other day we'll achieve that technological advancement. But isolation, I don't think is a solution. Yeah. So I think most of your questions were the concerns even I was raising.
Isolation may be useful to some elite class people. But again, why I compared.
Correct. Yeah. Agree. So unfortunately, many times, yes. So if I'm a celebrity, I can easily get my FIR registered.
Definitely.
I can go to the court, get my remedy. A common person, access to justice is still a myth.
Forget about EFIR, zero FIR, even physical FIR.
Agree.
Nobody will
agree.
come
Those
forward.
are practical problems we have in the system.
Just go through the practical issue. We have to give solutions such a way it should be helpful to the general public. That's why I told initially, India is a
So we're trying to overcome. That's what, see, when it comes to at least crimes against women and children, we now have portals where anonymous complaints can be filed. So that, okay, the complaint goes to the portal. It gets back to the local police. Will they effectively investigate? So that's where we get stuck. I know it's a lot of social and other issues as well.
Sapna madam told, even Nirbhaya, that app, many do not know. When such being the case, it is really difficult to resolve all these issues. Something goes.
I know there's no, I'm not saying it can be solved, but there are a lot of
things. If it is uploaded in social media, they will commit suicide.
Yes,
It may
that's what I was
it may be
indicating.
okay for celebrities. What about the common people?
In fact, we also see celebrities being trolled and all. I think no one is spared, but yes,
my
access to
observation-
justice is a
my
concern in our
observation-
country, not just for cyber crimes, but for
my
everything.
observation, it is the bound and duty of the government to take measure to protect the interest of users. Otherwise, let it go to like China. Because something goes wrong, no government will come and forward to help the victims.
See, I think China's legal system is different. Ours is democratic. And we've started saying right to internet is a fundamental right. So I should be allowed to use all the internet platforms, not just what's developed in India. So I think, yeah, that's not a complete solution, is my opinion.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sapna and Professor Nagaratna, for your presentations. I've just completed my thesis on cybercrimes against women, so your presentations were it hit home for me. My question to both of you is, what's next? The reason why I'm asking is because that's where I am right now.
Yeah, I think, see, anything that we do, there's always this what next. And what is the next in technology? You never know. Technology is just racing. And I think my perspective on that would be we need to cross the bridge when we come to that. But it is very difficult for law to keep in pace with technology because technology races very, very fast. One thing that is very important for us to understand is that now, say, for example, even if you take a look at the gender index says that India is way below than what it should have been. Now, say, for example, in the Nordic countries. To me, one thing that would definitely help is the advocacy that we are able to bring about. The sensitization to the police, to the prosecution is a very important thing. People do hush away gender sensitization to say that we anyway know about it and, these are the kinds of the things which are common knowledge. But gender sensitivity is not common knowledge. The meaning of gender sensitivity is to be sensitized to how a woman thinks or to how a person of a different gender thinks. I think that is going to have transformational effect in the long run.
I think while concluding, I said there's a long way to go. I think it's a continuous process. We just amended criminal law doesn't end there. How we implement and a lot of things. And as Sapna ma'am was saying, with the changed versions of technology, more challenges will come. I think it's a continuous process. And law and technology, it's always a cat and a rat race. So I think it's a continuous process of trying to regulate. So IT Act has two main objectives, ensure that the use of technology is widened. At the same time, ensure that its abuse is regulated. So I think that should be a continuous process through any law or approach. Thank you.
Okay, so all questions taken. There is always a way forward. All the sessions have been very fruitful. I was the chairperson of this session. All the women there have spoken really well, justified their presence today, and justified your presence today by listening to them. The fact that it provoked some very critical questions means that we are yet to find solutions or answers to this gender-based violence. Thank you one and all. Madam has not mentioned whether there will be a tea break here. That's a better. So don't go away. One of the guests for the valedictory is already arrived. Professor Sarsu Thomas Madam is already arrived. So we start with the valedictory. Thank you. Yeah.
You come, you will be photographed. You have to cut and paste it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So we catch up some other time. Mystically, it's more than 1 year since we met, so I'm glad I got to this is the meeting we are supposed to. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Take care. Thank you so much. My bag? Wow. I got a certificate also. In my own college, I got a certificate. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Honorable dignitaries, esteemed speakers, delegates, invitees, and everyone present here. A very good evening to one and all. I, Pratiksha, a first year student of University Law College, Bangalore University, consider it a great honor to be the master of ceremony for today's valedictory session of this prestigious event. It is rightly said that every ending marks a new beginning. As we come to the conclusion of this remarkable conference, we gather here to reflect on the insights gained, the discussions held, and impact created over the past 2 days. Without further ado, let us commence this valedictory session with a warm welcome to our esteemed dignitaries. First and foremost, I would like to introduce Professor C.D. Venkatesh. C.D. Venkatesh is a professor at Center for Women's Studies, Bangalore University, having more than 1.5 decades of teaching and research experience. Okay, sir. With immense honor, I take this opportunity to first introduce our valedictory speaker, Professor Sarasu Thomas, Director of Manipal Law School and Professor of Law at National Law School of India University. Professor Sarasu Thomas is a visionary academic leader whose career has been dedicated to advancing gender justice, human rights, and family law. An alumni of NLSIU, she has held pivotal roles in shaping legal education in India. Beyond academia, she has worked on significant projects for the National Human Rights Commission and the National Commission for Women. Her dedications to legal scholarship and policy advocacy makes her a beacon of inspiration for aspiring legal minds. With that, I warmly invite Professor Sarasu Thomas. Next, our guest of Our next guest of honor, Professor Sudeshwi, Dean University College of Law, Bangalore. A leading scholar in labor law, Professor Sudeshwi has significant contributions to legal research with over 35 publications spanning human rights, labor rights, and environmental law. His extensive involvement in esteemed legal bodies has furthered legal scholarship and social justice in our country. With such an inspiration, let's extend a warm welcome to our beloved Sir, Professor Sudeshwi. Our next guest of honor, we have Dr. Siddhappa Belagatta, Associate Professor, Center for Women's Studies, Bangalore University. Dr. Siddhappa Belagatta is a renowned scholar with expertise in women and literature. His contributions to academia include numerous publications that explore the intersection of literature and performing arts from a gendered perspective. His leadership roles in student welfare and administrative committees have made him a valuable figure in academic and student communities alike. Now, I'd like to invite. First, you say the Venkatesh, I mean, you have missed it. Venkatesh. Oh, yes. Just a minute, ma'am. Just.
Yeah, just a minute.
I would also like to welcome Venkatesh sir and also Satish sir on the floor. Over to you, sir. Okay. To provide a comprehensive conference report, I invite Dr. Sudeshna Mukherjee, Coordinator, Center for Women's Studies, Bangalore University, to share the key takeaways and outcomes of the conference.
First, you have to ask the welcome to guests.
Okay. Yeah, okay. C.D. Venkatesh. Yeah, Professor C.D. Venkatesh. Professor C.D. Venkatesh of Bangalore University, having more than 1.5 decades of teaching and research experience in academia arena. His field of expertise has been feminist studies, gender, Dalit women, and street children. With his expertise in publishing several articles related to women development issues, especially widows of farmers, convicted and under trial women in jail around Karnataka, Dr. C.D. Venkatesh has contributed towards the development of Center for Women's Studies as an advisory and as a proficient administrator and academician to formally commence the session. I invite Professor C.D. Venkatesh, Professor Center for Women's Study, Bangalore University, to deliver the welcome address. Yes, welcome address.
Sir. Respected dignitaries, esteemed guest, faculty member, and dear students, I warm welcome to everyone to the valedictory session of this important conference on gender, power and technology, addressing violence and intersectionality in the digital age. It is an honor to have all of you here as we conclude this meaningful discussion. First, I would like to thank the UGC Center for Women's Studies, Bangalore University for organizing this event, along with the University Law College, Bangalore University, and Karnataka State Akkamadevi Women's University. Their efforts in bringing together experts to discuss such a crucial topic are truly commendable. We are privileged to have with us Professor Sarsu Thomas, Director of Manipal Law School, Professor of Law, National Law School, School of India University, to deliver the valedictory address. Welcome to you, madam. Okay. Our guest of honor, Professor Sudesh V, Dean University, College of Law, Bangalore University. Sir, welcome you, sir. And Professor Satish Gowda, Chairperson, University Law College. Sir, welcome to you, sir. And our Chairperson, Center for Women's Studies, Professor Sudeshna Mukherjee. Welcome you to madam. And our friend, Professor Siddhappa Belagatta. Sir, welcome you. Throughout this conference, we have discussed how gender and power dynamics influence technology and how digital space can both empower and harm individuals. Cyber harassment, digital surveillance, and online exploitation are serious challenges that need urgent attention. At the same time, technology can be a tool for positive change if used responsibly, and inclusively. As we conclude this event, let us take forward the insights, share here, and work together to make digital space safer and more equitable for all. Once again, I welcome you all to this final session and look forward to a meaningful conclusion. Thank you very much.
To provide a comprehensive conference report, I invite Dr. Sudeshna Mukherjee, Coordinator, Center for Women's Studies, Bangalore University, to share the key takeaways and outcomes of the conference.
Thank you, Dr. Venkatesh. I welcome you to this valedictory program also. And respected dignitaries on and off the dais, my dear students, researchers, and practitioners. So, today we have come to the fag end of our 2 days deliberations on this international conference. So I must say that this has been from tomorrow onwards, I will feel little empty because last 6 months we will be living with this. So every day queries, answering mails and all. So more than answering me, I think Sharon took a lot of responsibility. Sumedha and Sharon, they were handling the mail, and then we have the teams who gone through that abstract selection. So basically try to see that initially the idea floated that we will hold the international conference. The idea came from the Lakshmi madam from the Women's University Vijayapura. She is the director of the Women's Study Center. So I attended one BOS meeting of theirs and advisory meeting, and madam was telling that we should together hold some international conference. So that was there in my mind, and then suddenly that university come up with this PM Usha proposals. Then and they were telling that if you are doing the collaboratory multidisciplinary initiatives, obviously every program when you hold the budget becomes a very important thing. We cannot ignore that aspect. So that was told that if you do that, your budget will be little better. So then I come to the law college, and my ever supporting seniors, a colleague, Professor Sudesh, Professor Dashrath, and Professor Satish Gaura. So they were there. So they supported wholeheartedly, and the outcome is that we 3 institutions, it is not only the multidisciplinary, multi-institutional collaboration happened. So initially, even we floated when we the first brochure, we were never that hopeful that it is going to reach this scale. So I know that you all are anxious to go home. The festival is also knocking the door tomorrow, so I will not take much time. So I just want to say that we received 135 abstracts. So 100 offline presentations happened under the 5 here in this our law college premises. 5 under 5 sub themes. We have the 100 offline presentations, and we had to run because there were so many requests for the online presentations. There are 30 papers were presented, more than 30 presented on the 2 online sessions. So we have more than 130 presentations happened, and almost 181 people who have registered for the conference, who were with us, joined in 2 days. Some of them left and some of them are here. So that way it was, we were overwhelmed with the responses, and especially when you look at the kind of abstracts or papers, many of them have already submitted their full papers. So my sincere request to you all that because we got such a good, quality papers, we are definitely going to publish, going for a publication. So please send your papers, and with the inputs you have received, those who are, already sent, you please revise your papers if you wish to. Otherwise, we will send you with the comments for the revision. But definitely, I am really overwhelmed with all your responses and the quality of papers. I must say that undergraduate students, because this shows that this topic, it's a lived reality for them. So they understand this much better than, we little other side of the things. We may look in the technicalities of the issue, but they lived it. So you can see that such spontaneous, brilliant paper presentations happen from the undergraduate students across the country. So my sincere thanks goes to the, obviously the Law College volunteers and the volunteers from the Center for Women Studies and the volunteers from the Akka Mahadevi University. So they have proved that collaboration is possible at every level. So I never thought that how we will run, but whenever we are in trouble, we found solution. People came all across and they supported and gave solution to the problem. So I significantly thanked all of you for your active cooperation to make this conference a success. So I know that you have one of the most awaited talk is waiting by Professor Sarasu. I know how brilliant speaker she is, so I should not come in between. So we will keep in touch, because anyway we will be going for the publication. So we need to be with you and all. Thank you so much once again, all of you, for your active support and the cooperation to make this conference a success.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your warm welcome.
You just after the valedictory address, I'll just tell you. We want that one or two, 3 or 4 participants after the valedictory address, please share your experience about the conference. So.
With immense honor, I take this opportunity to welcome Professor Sarsu Thomas, Director of Manipal Law School and Professor of Law at NLSIU, to deliver the valedictory address.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Pratiksha.
Thank you, Pratiksha. I've set a timer, so I will not exceed the time. So a very good afternoon to all the dignitaries on the dais, many of whom I've known personally for many years, but I've had the good fortune of meeting a couple that I have not had the fortune of interacting with very deeply. And also very good afternoon to everyone here who's come for the conference, from the department, the participants, allies, trying to look at this issue in a critical manner, and also the staff that is here, videographing and behind the scenes as well. So when I first came across this conference, which was a long time back, when Sudeshna spoke about it, and I had an image of the conference, but when I saw the abstracts, I realized how high a quality this conference has been. And I was, when I was talking about the keynote, thinking about what to say at the end of what have definitely been very rigorous and academic discussions over a period of time on various dimensions of gender, power, and technology, and addressing violence and intersectionality in the digital age. I was reading about it and preparing when I was in my present institution, which is the Manipal Law School, which is a tech-focused law school. And I thought it was so ironic that I should be in that, in that atmosphere, that environment, dealing with it. And the reason that it's tech-focused is also because the institutions there are very interdisciplinary. So law works with the design school, we work with the technology school, and so on. And it was only after so many years of teaching law that I finally understood that a lot of things that are happening are so quick, are so fast, that by the time we are talking about it or writing about it or coming to conferences about it, it is already old news. And people are devising new things
with the same technology. So most academic discussion around technology, which is what has happened in this conference, is already, partly dated because there are newer forms of crime, newer ways of committing crimes than we can think about. So this entire thing that we are dealing with really is, a process where we are lagging behind while technology keeps going ahead from day to day to day. And this is not something new. We have lived with generations of technology, and women have learned to live with generations of technology. And when we look at issues of gender and power, we see that these different technologies live simultaneously in our modern day age. So if an alien were to come from outer space to the world today and wants to do a study of how are human beings living in the 21st century, they would find human beings living in still stone caves, living in thatched houses, living in mud, small mud huts. They might find small houses and they might find skyscrapers. They will also find many homeless. So what I'm driving at is that these different generations of how people live existed from time immemorial, and though there are changes, like today we have skyscrapers which were not there in earlier times, we still have homeless as in earlier times, we have mud huts as in earlier times, and so on. So when we're talking about technology, it is not a technology in the singular sense, it is technology in the plural, that we are dealing with gender issues, with all kinds of technology that still exist. So the first technology was probably, which used to oppress women, was probably a stick, which men must have carved out or plucked from a branch to kill maybe a snake or to chase away wild animals, and discovered that the same stick can be used to hit his partner or the women in his small social circle. And so technology we see is this misuse of technology, or women bearing the brunt of technology, or the violence of technology, is not something new. It is something that has happened over millennia, from the first time that we had possibly a patriarchal society. And women's exploitation continues. So over this time we have seen how in the digital era women's technology has continued. So Professor Mary E. John spoke about, for instance, the pink chaddi movement, or the MMS scandal that happened. And in Karnataka also we are familiar with the Mysore Malige scandal and other kinds of scandals which are locally fairly well known. We see that sexual violence has always been there, and now it has changed quite fast and in many ways. So we had Dr. Michelle Ho, for instance, talking about tech-facilitated sexual violence, something that Sapna also dealt with. And I had the privilege of guiding Sapna's, being the supervisor for Sapna's dissertation, and a lot of that was on gender-based violence in a very tech atmosphere. We've seen that technology has also created digital harassment of different kinds, which are too far to enumerate. And even as we are speaking, new forms of digital harassment may come up from time to time to time. Kinds of harassment which were unknown in the past, like reproductive coercion, which became something possible with technology increasing, is something that we looked at in presentations which I wasn't able to hear, like on cults, which talked about quiverful or forcing women to have more children and so on. So it's worked both ways. We've seen technology being used to prevent women from having children, to forced abortions, to also, of course, to forcing women to have children, and in many subtle ways. So the oppression of women that we have seen in the many papers that we have before us has just shown that it doesn't matter whether we call ourselves developed or not. When we have not been able to really dismantle a lot of the patriarchal bases which have shaped a lot of technology. As a feminist, I'm suspicious of technology in general. And though I'm not a Luddite or anti-technology, I have seen that technology has often been used to entrench patriarchy from time to time. Very often it has started off in an innocent manner, like the white revolution or increasing milk led to technology which allowed for female animal embryos to be implanted and more milch cattle being born female than male. And we've seen how seamless that change was from moving from cattle in the veterinary department to human beings, where sex-selective abortions were so easily carried out, or sex determination was done so easily, leading to, as Amartya Sen pointed out, more than 33 million women not being born at all. So technology is something that, when it is pushed, usually there is a fascination for it. It is seen as modern, it is seen as good, but we've seen that from all the examples in the papers that have come up, that women's exploitation continues. And we've had voices of caution in the papers as well. For instance, we've had Professor Bula Bhadra talking about gendering new technology. We've heard Professor Sharbari Bhattacharya talking about the challenges in women in STEM. And I think these two things must be looked at together. So who are the people who are bringing about this new technology? Who are the people who brought about technology in the earlier days? And who are the people who are driving this digital era technology? When we look behind the scenes, we see that they are again overwhelmingly men. And with values that probably don't belong in a developed society where we claim to be different today. And this also means that women who are not there in STEM courses, women find it difficult to pursue scientific careers, women find it difficult to shape the way that technology is being used. So very often the ways in which it could harm women in particular is not really understood until it is too late. We also see that patriarchy is being built up through, I think one paper I found interesting is that by Dr. Manoj, who spoke about the super masculine hyperbolic images which are now available and which has portrayed certain roles for men or certain outcomes for male power. We have seen in other papers how when the age-old things like misogyny or hatred of women has percolated into modern day as well through technology. And when you look for women's rights, for instance, or you're looking for violence against women or 498A, the things that pop up most often are not really, help sites for women on how to deal with violence in the home. But they are sites by women's rights or men's rights activists rather, who say how this law is being misused. Whereas if you look at the data, which actually exists on the ground, even though you have 40% of violence against women, most women don't complain. So the law is not even being used, forget about it being misused. So this misogyny is also being projected. And these untruths or fake news or fraudulent news is something that has come up and is hampering a lot of efforts that women have put in over generations for better rights and to dismantle patriarchy. So when we look at this, we understand that women's rights are affected because of this digital age, and we have to take steps against it. We understand that all women's rights are not affected the same way. We know, for instance, the furor that happened and the number of people who came forward when we speak about happenings like the Nirbhaya case. So there won't be anyone in this room, for instance, who has not heard of the Nirbhaya case. Is there anybody? Okay. But how many of you have not heard of the Hathras incident? Is that also familiar to everyone? And when you compare Nirbhaya and Hathras, which one do you feel got better publicity? Nirbhaya. So why not Hathras? Absolutely. This was caste. In the Hathras incident, the woman belonged to a scheduled caste. And so we see that in such cases, you don't have the same kind of support that comes in on digital platforms. And there was no support or very little support for the reporter who tried to really bring this to the forefront. If I look at yet another case, the Bilkis Bano case. How many of you have not heard of the Bilkis Bano case? Okay, so some of you have not heard of the Bilkis Bano case. But many of you may have heard of the Bilkis Bano case. So this was a woman who was a Muslim woman who found her family destroyed in front of her, who was violently raped. And we see that there was very little on in the digital space about Bilkis Bano. If there was anything that there was threatening her. And we also see how the perpetrators of that violence were treated. So, when they were let off wrongly under the law, and finally the Supreme Court had to say, you have to take them back. They were let out wrongly. There were people garlanding them, and that is something that you found all over the media. So this digital age is something that, I'm very suspicious of, because the voices that are out there on the digital age, in the digital media, are the voices largely of the privileged. So they are the voices of the Nirbhaya. I'm not saying that Nirbhaya does not need a voice. Of course she needs a voice. But so does the Hathras incident, and so does the Bilkis Bano incident. So these intersectionalities that we see on gender, whether they are intersectionalities of caste, of religion, are very important intersectionalities. And I was very happily surprised to find papers which dealt with such intersectionalities in this conference as well. For instance, I found one very interestingly on disability, which is an intersectionality that we don't really speak about. And of course, there were also speakers on the intersectionalities of caste. They were also, looking at specific communities and how they feel affected by these intersectionalities. And we see that many of these things that we find, the closing of spaces and the lack of voices in the digital space, is also reflected on the ground. For instance, Gauri Vijay Kumar spoke about the precarities of technology in sex work, which is used to perpetrate violence, which is used to perpetrate blackmail and surveillance. And we see that reflected on the ground as well. There's a recent book, for instance, for those of you who are interested, called Urban Undesirables, done by two researchers from NIAS. And what they also showed was that the spaces of sex workers in Bangalore are also getting shut down because of this IT age, this digital age. Everyone wants it to be sparkling, clean, concrete walls. The older cinemas have gone away, and you have now multiplexes. The older parks have gone away or been made into residence parks. And so the spaces that sex workers traditionally had is not there. And their spaces in this IT city have shrunk quite visibly. And we see that this IT city in its digital avatar has also created greater violence, surveillance, blackmailing, and other forms of precarities for sex workers. So of course, sex workers are not the only people that have been spoken about. We had a paper, I think it was by Harita, if I've got the name right, who spoke about Dalit women. We've had papers which spoke about migrant workers, about religious minorities, about scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. And so I think the theme that was dealing with intersectionalities, which is an integral part of the theme of the conference, has been quite well served. We usually find that in conferences on gender, people speak about gender as a whole and miss the intersectionalities. So the Nirbhayas get spoken out, but not the Hathras incidents, not the Bilkis Bano incidents. And I feel that here, these have been quite well addressed. But that is also something that we cannot afford to forget, that when we speak about any form of violence, dealing with intersectionalities is necessary to understand those and be able to address the issues of those who feel the violence most keenly. I was also pleasantly surprised and happy with the interdisciplinary outlook, something that I looked forward to in my present role and my present institution is the true interdisciplinarity it represents. And here I see right from the planning stage that it was interdisciplinary. You had a women's university, you had the Bangalore University, and you had the University Law College, Bangalore, which is a very old neighbor of the National Law School. We were together from near the the old Central College campus. We were opposite each other, and here too we are just down the road. So different disciplines have been represented: sociology, economics, political science. So in political science, we heard about amplifying voices of dissent and looking at women's issues more keenly. In economics, we looked at ways in which the direct benefit transfer worked and looking at it from a gender angle. But we see that by and large, we have looked at the legal angle. I'm not sure if that is because we are at the University Law College or because I'm primarily a legal researcher. So as one of my teachers who's an environmental law person said, when I see the Constitution, I see a green document. And me being a feminist, I told him, sir, but when I see the Constitution, I see a feminist document. So maybe when I was going through the papers, because I am primarily from the legal field, I must have seen a lot of law. But what I also want to emphasize is the humility that we in the legal department should have. That we understand that in issues dealing with gender power technology in the digital age, law has very few solutions. We still don't have a proper law on data privacy and AI. By the time the law comes, the technology would have gone much further. And that is a challenge with law. And I was here for the fag end of what my colleague, Dr. Nagratna said. And I missed Sanjay Sahai's presentation on role of police and judiciary. Oh, he didn't come? So, but I read the abstract. And Nagratna spoke about the issues of jurisdiction, which is a real challenge. That when we speak about most, things, we know that it happens within a jurisdiction that we can see. There's a traffic accident at the Circle, the Bangalore University. We know the Gyana Bharati police station will have jurisdiction. So when we're talking about the digital age and you're talking about cyberspace or the internet, we deal with an issue where we don't know where the perpetrators of this crime are. It is very difficult to find out. Though you do have a cyber cell, if you look at how the cyber cell functions, we understand that most cases, they simply cannot take up. And cases of cyber violence have absolutely no resolution, which is why you have people always telling you, advertisements over the phone, for instance, constantly telling, or over the radio, if you listen to the radio, how to beware of different kinds of cyber violence, because the solutions to them are very few. And that is something which is hard for us as a society to accept, that many of these criminals are in jurisdictions far away from India, and it's very, very difficult to catch them. As the saying goes, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. And I think that is what, as those who work in areas of gender or human rights, or simply in the areas of dealing with addressing cyber violence in many ways, have to keep in mind that we don't have really many solutions that are forthcoming. And so in any kind of a conference like this, very often, lay persons, when you go back to them, they say that, okay, you went for this conference, but what happened? What is the outcome? What is the solution? I think we need to think beyond these simplistic boxes. It's not very easy to, find that one size fits all kind of a solution. It's also not always possible to find a solution. But what is necessary is to speak about the problem, to speak about why it is happening. And sometimes the solutions are in a realm that is not really the realm of law or economics. For instance, the solution to a lot of violence against women, whether it is happening in the digital space or it is happening in a physical space, is really the dismantling of patriarchy. But there is no quick fix solution to the dismantling of patriarchy. So what do? We just have like a law. But the law is not sufficient unless we are able to make changes in our underlying society as such. So the society, for instance, which sees women as an object, as someone who can be violated, that is going to be something, that society would behave in a particular way towards that woman, whether it is in the physical space or it is in the digital space. So these changes need to be far and wide-ranging. And there are some societies where they are, in fact, taking note of it and trying to, change things so that patriarchy is slowly dismantled over a long period of time. So finding quick fix solutions is not something that these conferences are about. It is, in fact, a good way to be able to brainstorm and come up with small ideas. And this process of ideation is probably something that will have a long-term impact. So those who've been listening to the sessions, you may have come with 100 ideas. You'll be going back with now 110. And every new idea is a step towards a better system for women and better justice for women in the digital age. Which is why we need to talk more and we need to ideate more on many of these areas. Now, I can take one example, for instance, to show you how the ideas are so important. That is with regard to the LGBTQI rights in India. I can't take up all the papers, but I'd like to take up one paper or a couple of papers which did speak about LGBTQI rights. And it talked about how it is useful in many ways and also how it ends up in perpetuating violence. Certainly, the LGBTQIA movement that exists in this country and outside this country could not have been possible without a digital age. It was possible for people to go to safe spaces anonymously and speak to other people like themselves, to feel not alone, to know that other people were experiencing the same kind of violence, and to be able to brainstorm in these smaller places for similar kind of solutions. The decriminalization of same-sex relations in India could not have happened if we were not in a digital age, where court decisions from different parts of the world, scientific studies from different parts of the world, and voices from different parts of the world could not be heard in our country to help courts come to the decision which they came to. So the digital age has a lot to offer us. But the flip side is also there. We know that hate speech against gays, lesbians, and others in this group is at an all-time high. There are threats that people can receive anonymously without being able to find out who those threats came from. So there are, as we know, two sides to the same coin. We've seen that there are also new problems that we have to deal with. Online gaming addiction, which some people spoke about, though not specifically on gender, is something that is of serious concern to educators and parents everywhere. And that is something that we're finding it very difficult to find solutions for. But on the other hand, you have digital selfhood, which is very important, the way we portray ourselves, the way we see ourselves, which is very important for each of us. And there is, of course, the joke that goes around saying that nobody looks like their Facebook profile. But then nobody looks like their passport photos also. Okay? So passport photos are also touched. And, Nobody looks like their Aadhaar photograph, We all look like most wanted criminals in our Aadhaar photograph. So there is a huge gap between, let us say, our Aadhaar photograph and our Facebook profile photo or our Insta reels. And I think this is, from what we are to what is aspirational, what we want to be, and what we want to portray ourselves as, which is, I think, a very good expression of the way that especially young people are. And I think that is what we need to move towards. This what is our aspiration? So if our aspiration is to moving towards a world which is sensitive to issues of gender, where people are in fact truly equal, where we are able to speak truth to power anonymously on a digital platform, where we are able to address new problems of technology very, very quickly, then that is the Facebook photo says it all. That is our aspiration, that this is what we want in the future. And I think in India it is important to keep in mind that when we are talking about gender power technology, for us it should be only good. If there are negative things, we must address them, because we are, after all, a nation of many cultures, but we have only one uniting culture which unites us all as Indians, and that is our constitution, our constitutional culture. And several times courts have said that constitutional morality is not the morality of the majority. It is the morality of the Constitution, which upholds constitutional principles. So upholding constitutional principles, I think, are necessary. And that should be really the test when we decide whether a technology is good or bad, or whether a technology should be controlled or a technology should not be controlled, to see what are the constitutional goals that can be served by allowing such technology or regulating such technology or banning such technology. So I know you all have had a long day, and I will not take any more of your time. And I would like to end with this, that if we allow technology to become a stick to beat women, it will become a stick to beat women. But if we allow technology to be wings that lift us to greater humanity, then it will become the wings to lead us to greater humanity. The choice is ours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your detailed report. Before we go ahead with the next speaker, I would like to call upon a few participants on the dais to share their experience. Najat from Bangladesh, please come on the dais.
Thank you very much. I'm Nujhat Noor Islam. I'm currently pursuing my PhD in comparative literature at the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. And I'm an assistant professor of English, Hamdard University, Bangladesh. So this 2-day conference, I found it a very knowledgeable one, because the papers are very diversifying. They have covered multi-dimensional fields. And I am very happy with the hospitality. Here, Sharon, I met her at Gadak conference, and from that moment, we became best friends. So this conference is for her, because she is leaving soon, and she is going to be conferred doctorate. I congratulate her for that in advance. And thank you, Sudeshna ma'am, for having us here. It's a wonderful, lovely moment for us. The food, the papers, the plenary speakers, everything was very, very good. And thank you for, sticking up to the time. The conference was punctual in my experience so far in India. So thank you very much for that.
Now I would like to call upon Yashashwini, Research Scholar, Sociology, Bangalore University.
A very warm good evening for one and all present here. One of the beautiful international conference, because maintaining a time in an international conference is not so easy, and being a punctual is one of the biggest challenges in these days. So that's why I called this conference as a brilliant. And also I would like to thank Sudeshna ma'am and her team too for putting a lot of hard work to success this conference. And I have seen her determination towards this conference was so huge. And also she was working all the night, even the Sharon also. And it is so honored to listen the paper presentation from eminent scholars throughout the world. I wish more and more conference should happen in the university so that students can benefit out of this, ma'am. Please do consider my point. Finally, I want to thank Sudeshna ma'am and her team to international conference, and also ending the conference on this beautiful note. Food was so delicious, conference was so informative, and thank you one and all for listening all the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Yashashwini. Now I call upon Dr. Michelle Ho from Singapore.
Hi everyone, I'll make it short. So my name is Michelle Ho. I'm an assistant professor at the National University of Singapore. You heard from me yesterday, so I won't go into that. But I just want to say I'm really honored to be here in person. I nearly did not come, but I really appreciate coming in person to India for the first time, surprisingly. But hopefully not the last. But I was very, very impressed by the scale of the conference. It was huge, so kudos to the organizers, Sudeshna, definitely, Sharon as well, and other people working behind the scenes. Thank you to you. But also very impressed by the energy of the students. And I do want to say, with my 1 minute that I have, to encourage the students who I perceive as the junior scholars, our next generation of scholars, to not forget what you've learned here, and also to hold on to the connections, the people you've met, the networking over here. So, this is speaking from experience. Some of the best friends that I've made, also the best collaborators that I've made, are actually from previous conferences. So don't forget, please go forward, because doing the work that I do in Singapore, I'm sort of being siloed there. So how else am I supposed to meet like-minded friends, people who are as committed to gender tech and violence as I am? So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I call upon Ipsita, Associate Professor, West Bengal.
Good evening to all. I am Ipsita Chakraborty, Sociology Faculty, Robindra Shiksha Sammiloni Law College, Kolkata, West Bengal. I am attending this prestigious 2 days multidisciplinary international conference hybrid mode, and held on 28th to 29th March 2025, organized by UGC Center of Women Studies, Bangalore University, in collaboration with University Law College, Bangalore University, Karnataka State Akka Mahadevi Women's University, Vijaypura. In 2 days conference, I have attended 4 plenary sessions, 7 offline parallel technical sessions, and also 3 online sessions also. And the total accommodation facilities and arrangement All are very good and very friendly, caring, and hospitality is nothing to say. It is very good arrangements. Thanks to Sudeshna ma'am, Sarin, and Sumedha also, and her team also, and all the technical, non-technical persons also, and they time to time providing us so many information, queries, anything. And with my 6 students, they continue connecting and contacting and providing the information every time. So I'm very happy to share my experience here. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, we have Rashmi from Vijaypura.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I actually hail from Vijaypura, but I actually work here. My name is Rashmi. I work in RDPR department as a core faculty for gender and women empowerment. And one thing, I was very overwhelmed by the team who was present here for presenting the entire thing. Because it was for me, the people who I used to read have come into the life. So that was the beauty of entire organizing committee. So, and Sasuma, especially, actually, I was waiting for your talk. I've heard a lot about you from my sister who used to study in NLSU. Who's still in the 4th year. So, and that is a very beautiful thing which I felt. And also me being an engineer, I come from an engineering background, pursued in women's studies. So I actually, because I'm working in rural development, I have a connect lot to the ground realities. So, but I had forgotten my roots. So thank you for making me feel that also. And again, from yesterday, I'm hearing from all stakeholder mentalities. It's from science, it's from commerce, it's from arts background. We are just connecting technology everywhere. So yes, there are pros and cons, but let's focus equally on both of them. And everything else was very good. Food, exactly, etc., was very nice, ma'am. And I thank you for our university, especially my HOD, Lakshmi madam. I was working here, but again, abruptly they called me and I came to attend here, that's all. And thank you, Sudeshna ma'am, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Now it's my honor to call upon Satish Gowda, sir, Chairman, Department of Studies in Law, Bangalore University, to deliver his remarks.
Good evening to one and all, respected dignitaries on and off the dais, and faculty members, and research scholars, and my dear students. At outset, let me congratulate the entire team of the Department of Women's Studies. I may call Trinity of Women's Studies, Professor Dr. Sudeshna Madam, C.D. Venkatesh sir, and Siddhappa sir, and all the team from Women's Studies and Law College. We really worked. I know the difficulties how to organize international conference. It is not an easy task, because recently in the month of December we had an international conference on constitutional principles and in commemorating 75 years of Indian Constitution, where inviting delegates from different countries and different states and responding them for their abstract and editing their abstract work within a short span of period. It's not an easy, and that too organizing this event under PM Usha. I think I am the victim of PM Usha, because I organized a program 3 months back and not yet released, but nevertheless, in fact, telling the truth, Madam has taken very sportively, in the sense we have to appreciate your dareness, and organized really very well. And we had a wonderful discussion, deliberations, inviting, and when Sudeshna Madam sent me the list of resource person discussing with Sudesh sir and all, when I see 3 best women speakers, I was so happy. That to Sarsu Thomas Madam and Nagratna Madam and Swapna Madam and all, and we too had an opportunity to hear a good resource from the feminist point of view, from different discipline, the resource person from different disciplines, and totally, of course, yesterday and today, in fact, you all are exhausted. In fact, today we are going to celebrate Yugadi, nevertheless, you all are here in the sense that speaks the quality of this wonderful conference without wasting your time. In fact, already you have heard so many presentation, and many have presented your papers also. And today's keynote address, valedictory address delivered by Sarsu Thomas Madam was really informative and thought-provoking one. Wherever we go, with due diligence and meticulously we hear Madam's presentation, because it is very unique and very solution-oriented, and she makes always the observation with ground realities. And finally, if I wanted to speak about the conference and all, I request Madam, at least if it is published in the form of book, it will be a great help, number one. Number two, under PM Usha direction, we have to send some recommendation to the government, so that let us make an attempt to request the government to implement or add something in their respective legislations or whatever it may be. Finally, if I say awareness and implementation matters a lot to bring the things in reality. So, no doubt, I hope this conference brought so many things and gathered among different disciplines and networking and creating awareness and sensitization among all of us. And I thank once again Mahila Vishwavidyalaya representative Madam, Women's Studies Lakshmi Devi Madam, and Department of Women's Studies Venkatesh sir and Siddhappa sir, very particularly Sudeshna Madam, taken wonderful, in fact from Law College we have just provided logistic support, and that too with the help of Professor V. Sudesh sir. In fact, he tried his level best to get a wonderful auditorium discussing with the alumni and all. We cannot forget his role. So I thank everyone for making this function grand success. Namaste.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening words. Now it's my honor to welcome Sudesh sir to provide his presidential remarks.
Thank you. Good evening. As I look at the invitation, I am satisfied that I am the last speaker. After me, we have Professor Siddhappa, who will be thanking us officially. One or two, three things as a president of this final session, the valedictory session. Number one, profusely thank Professor Dr. Sarsu Thomas Madam for being the chief guest of this function. Despite other dignitaries not coming, she has given a what you call bird's eye view or a 360-degree view of the entire presentation, despite she not being personally present here, but from whatever the abstract that is there. Of course, finally she said that we still have a lot of challenges, that law always is a step backwards when it comes to technology. Technology develops and then law has to catch up with that. Those are the limitations that probably lawyers always face, academicians, law teachers. We have always this question. Why in others' minds, our own minds, like Professor Satish Gowda, chairman, asked a question. Now, what's the use of having an MOU or an agreement with a foreign country when it cannot actually reach the people who are affected by such violence? Thank you, ma'am. Coming to Professor Sudeshna Mukherjee, madam, I think it was 3 or 4 months back when she wanted to associate with us in organizing this international conference, probably because we had a good seminar hall. I said, it's okay. It is not a property of the University Law College. It is the property of Bangalore University, because our Professor Kutino was the registrar, in charge, vice chancellor, registrar evaluation, teacher, and he was the one who brought quality to legal education. So in his name, if you have built this auditorium with the help of the alumni, spending more than 1 crore, it should be used. And if he were alive today, he would have said the same thing. When he was alive, he said that you must make the best use of such auditorium. So I was always welcoming. I immediately agreed. I said, someone is working hard for us to organize. Our name also will get added. Now, our friend from Singapore is here, from Bangladesh, from West Bengal. They will all go back, and in their invitations, in their certificates, it will be University Law College. That's a proud thing for us. The other thing about the Women's Studies Department, though a small department, but presently led by Professor Sudeshna Mukherjee Madam, assisted by Professor Venkatesh sir and Siddhappa sir, that how a lady has led the institution organizing, despite all the difficulties. She was with me last week, 2 days continuous, plus 2 other days on our local inspection. Her mind was only about that. And she used to tell me what emails she is receiving, whether there will be whether there will be a gym in the university, whether we can have an early morning walk. I mean, such wonderful queries. And we were just laughing at it. What kind of questions are these? So despite all that, like a woman always does, she's multitasking, she's done. I must support her. Late night walk, sorry, etc., etc. Anyhow, so what shows is that she has dedicated herself in seeing that this conference is a success. Not to forget represented from Women's University, Professor Lakshmi Devi Madam is here. How they've come together to organize a very successful model. Let me also admit, Professor Sasu Madam, that hardly state universities cooperate with each other. Forget about interdisciplinary, interdepartment cooperation. It's a model example that within the university, 2 departments can successfully cooperate and 2 state universities can cooperate. You applause. I think this is wonderful. Because everyone is bothered about who will be sitting on the chair, whose face will be covered on the newspapers, who will appear in the Facebook. We were such selfish people. Madam did not want me to sit on the inaugural day. I said, okay, madam. But the valedictory is all mine. Anyhow, jokes apart, but this is a model. I request Professor Lakshmi Devi Madam to come with such more meaningful programs. We will collaborate, we'll invite you, you can invite us, and how happy people are, some of those who are sitting here. And thanks to Sudeshna Mukherjee Madam, she also suggested that you must have an high-tech podium so that the computer can be logged in here. Very good. And then she said, this door is not closing, so please a door fixer there. Now I'll go back to my alumni and said, they're demanding more. Good anyway, it's all taken in the right spirit. Well, from what the feedback was given to us, I'm really content and happy that the 2 days that all of you spent, I spent, all of us spent was really meaningful. We may not carry all the subject matter, but something very important we will definitely carry in our academic discourse, in our publications, in our real life. We must now be aware that how technology is becoming a potent weapon to instigate new kind of violence against women. And we as elders in the family, we as people who are tech savvy we must guard the younger generation not to indulge or prevent and find solutions legally, what solutions are done. I know that the entire university has gone home, only we few are remaining here, preparing for the pre-Yugadi, getting the mango leaves and all other things that are necessary to prepare, the jaggery and the maida and all those things. So I will not take much time. Let me conclude by paying tribute to 2 gentlemen who are relevant in this context. One is our own Basavanna, the other one is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar said, I measure the progress of a community with the degree of progress women have achieved. And many years back he said, and still we are wanting in that. So yes, we must work a lot. Yes, Basavannas in the context of not promoting violence against women in that context. Do not steal, do not kill, do not lie. Do not be angry, do not be scornful of others. Do not glorify yourself, do not insult others. These are the means to inward purity. These are the means to outward purity dedicated to God Kudala Sangama. This we must practice. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. As we approach the end of the session, it is time to extend our heartful gratitude. To deliver the vote of thanks, I invite Dr. Siddhappa Belagatta, Associate Professor, Center for Women's Studies, Bangalore University.
ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಕೊನೆಯ ಹಂತಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀವಿ. Respected dignitaries, esteemed guests, distinguished speakers, faculty members, scholars and participants. As we come to the close of this enlightening and thought-provoking 2 days of the Multidisciplinary International Conference on Gender, Power and Technology, Addressing Violence and Intersectionality in the Digital Age, it is my great honor and privileged to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing committee. Our profound gratitude to our valedictory speaker, Professor Sarasu Thomas, Director of Manipur Law School, National Law School of India, India University, for delivering a compelling and insightful address. Her expertise in gender and legal studies has been instrumental in shaping the intellectual discourse of this conference. Next, our sincere appreciation goes to Professor Sudesh sir, Dean, University Law College of Law, Bengaluru University, for his insightful contributions and academic support. Thank you. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to all eminent keynote speakers, panelists, session chairs, faculty members, scholars, students, and participants for their engaging discussions, thought-provoking questions, and valuable contributions that made this conference a truly dynamic and meaningful platform. This conference would not have been possible without the leadership and tireless efforts of our esteemed organizer secretary, Dr. Sudeshna Mukherjee. Now I call to Sharon, she hand over to green plant, hand over to Madam, behalf of that. Thank you once again to Sudeshna Mukherjee. And our program conveners, Professor C.D. Venkatesh, Professor Lakshmi Devi, and Professor N. Dasharath, Professor N. Satish Gowda, their dedication, academic rigor, and commitment which have been a driving force behind the success of this conference. Thank you one and all. A special appreciation to the guest faculties, research scholar and students of the Center for Women Studies, Bengaluru University, and University Law College, and Center for Women Studies, Karnataka State Akkamadevi Women University, we have been the backbone of the smooth execution of this event. In particularly, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to Sharon Tambu, research scholar, our department, and even Dr. Aruna also. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to Manasa and Hafsa and other team in Law College, along with incredible team of students, volunteers. Your dedication, enthusiasm, and commitment have been truly commendable. A special word of thanks to the media team, Mr. Raghavendra and his team, our technical and administrative teams, volunteers for their efforts in ensuring that the conference receives the visibility it deserves. Your role in documenting and amplifying the discussions held here is invaluable. We are immensely grateful to our funding and collaborating institutions, the PM Usha scheme, the University Grant Commission, UGC, Center for Women Studies, University Law College, Bengaluru University, Ahalya Bai Postgraduate Center for Women Studies, Karnataka State Akkamadevi Women University, for their unwavering support and encouragement. Their contributions have been instrumental in making this conference a grand success. As we conclude this remarkable academic gathering, let us take forward the knowledge, ideas, and reflections shared today and continue striving for a more just, inclusive, and equitable digital future for all. Once again, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for being part of this important discourse. Thank you, one and all.
Yeah, I call upon Yashaswini for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल वंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उत्तल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जाहे तब शुभाशिष माहे गाहे तब जय गाता जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे जय हे।